So can I make a short film using an 8-year-old camera and only this gimbal? So you probably have questions, probably two questions in particular. Why are you using an 8-year-old camera, and why are you only using a gimbal to make this short film? Personally, I can easily fall into ruts where, I'm shooting stuff, I'm doing stuff for work, and I'm using cameras, but I'm not really like growing or engaging. Particularly like in narrative work where I really want to grow, I want to practice my skills with the camera. And I think one of the best ways to grow is to give yourself challenges, to give yourself like little mini assignments. Using an older camera that I've had for a long time now is really kind of like a challenge in seeing, I know this camera really well, I've grown more as a filmmaker, so hopefully I should be able to produce something better today than I did when I first got this camera like 5-6 years ago. As to the second question, there's a little bit of a story behind that. So, I'm doing the YouTube filmmaker thing as you do, reaching out to different companies. They reach out to me a lot, like, hey, do you want to do this partnership? Do you want to do this collab? Whatever. A lot of times I say no because it's not stuff I believe in. It's not stuff that's worth my time. I don't think it's worth people who watch my videos. I wouldn't recommend it unless it's actually good and I would use it. And I had this idea of like, you know what? Maybe I'll reach out. Maybe I'll reach out to this company. And so I reach out to Feiyu Tech. They're a company that makes gimbals, and I've heard of them. They've kind of been around the game for a little bit. And I have a friend who really speaks highly of his Feiyu Tech gimbal. And so I was like, I'll just give it a shot, see if they would want to do something. So I write up this quick pitch and I send it to them, and, kind of expecting radio silence. But then they hit me back and they're like, hey, this is a great idea. We would love to do some collaboration with you. So I hit them with this idea that, instead of doing your traditional review breakdown, send me the product, I'll review it really quick, and it feels disingenuous. I told them, hey, I'd love to do a creative project with this gimbal. So you send it out to me, I'd love to make a short film, and I'd love to do like a BTS breakdown video and talk about how I use the gimbal in the short film, talk about different features I use and the whole creative process of the thing. And they're like, yeah, that sounds great. And, fast forward, I've got the gimbal, I'm testing it, I'm making the short film. Kudos to you, Feiyu Tech, just like straight off the top, like, thanks for taking a big swing with this. So I have this gimbal now, and I'm thinking through the creative process of how do I make this short film? What do I make this short film with? And if you've been around the channel for a minute, you've probably heard me talk about resource filmmaking. I'm really big on resource filmmaking, which is using what you have to tell an interesting story. A lot of times we get caught up in the things we don't have or the budgets we don't have, but there's a lot of stuff that we can do to tell really interesting stories just in the places that we're at, the stuff that we have access to. Do I have access to actors or friends who'd be willing to do this? I feel like it's too short of notice, so no. I like doing some acting. It's not my main thing, so it's like, okay, I can act in it. Thinking through locations, it's winter where I live, we're slowly coming out of it, but the temperature is ping-ponging too much, so a lot of outdoor free locations are not available to me right now. I'm gonna probably be shooting this, weekends or evenings. I need it to be smaller, easy for me to control, to set up. So, come back to my house. I have access to my house. From here, that's where you kind of back into an idea, the whole point of resource filmmaking. With the resource filmmaking in mind, I wanna find a story that is compelling, it's interesting, I can shoot it in a different way than normal. Because if it doesn't have one of these different aspects, kind of like what is the point of making it? So I get the gimbal from Feiyu Tech, I'm trying it out, seeing the different things it can do, and I'm just trying to think, how could some of these features lend themselves to different genres of film that I could write and shoot? And as I'm thinking through it, it's like the gimbal has a detachable handle, so you can like do more remote control things. It has a tracking module, so it can follow your subject. It can do cool POV type of shots. And as I'm thinking through some of the stuff and the different ideas I have, I kind of narrow it down to doing like a horror, thriller, a little sci-fi, kind of bordering on like post-apocalyptic, dystopian. You'll kind of see it's like seasonings of it. Something has gone wrong in the film and people have to evacuate because there's a like impending threat, there's an outbreak, you know, whether it be a virus. Think along the lines of like Quiet Place or Cloverfield, and people have to get out. This is right at the beginning of whatever is happening. A lot of it can be motivated by a broadcast, so no dialogue from me. I can do a controlled VO, edit, and sound design will carry a lot of this film and cool aspects of the gimbal. And that's what I'm really gonna lean into. So that will kind of be the solid foundation of this short film. So I can lay this out in a clear context. I'm going to do a thriller horror type short film where our main character hears a broadcast and he is trying to escape from these creatures, this impending doom that is coming his way. So we're gonna follow him. Always want to have an active protagonist. There's something visual that we can see him trying to make this escape attempt. Will he succeed? Will he not? All of that builds intrigue and mystery. It makes you want to watch. This is going to be our backdrop for the first shot in the short film. What I'm going to do is I have this kind of little window alcove thing here. I'm going to shoot through here just to give us some cool, interesting look, you know, frame within a frame. And I will be here as a subject and you'll get this kind of really cool effect here. And it'll be nice because I'll be able to use the gimbal with the little detachable remote to set the shot, frame it up exactly how I want, and then yeah, just roll on that bad boy. So first we gotta get the room set up. So I'm gonna go grab my lights. What I'm thinking is I will have a light back over here, which you can't see, but that will kind of be backlighting me. And then we'll get a little LED light right here on the TV, maybe get like a flicker effect going on it so it can shine on my face like I'm watching a TV. And yeah, we'll see how it turns out. So going to gear for a minute on this short film, I said I wanted to use an 8-year-old camera. I'm using the Canon M50. I'm using a 22mm f2 lens on it. You know, it's really good. I need something that can do autofocus. 35mm equivalent gives you a good field of view. I can get fairly close to it. It's almost got like a macro feature, so I can get close, tight shots of me when I need to. And I think it's a really good candidate for doing something like this. I've spent a lot of time shooting with this camera, so I know it really well. It's kind of like the back of my hand. I don't have to think, and that's really gonna help me so I can focus on performance and other things like lighting and you know, just directing myself in the short film. So I think that's another reason that this is a good choice of camera. So I gotta get this balanced on the gimbal. So I got it set up right here. And one thing I really love about the Scorp Mini 3 Pro is that it's got the locks on all the different axes. It makes balancing this thing a whole lot easier. So I can go one at a time, make sure I find the sweet spot with it, just like unlock that particular one and be like, okay. So fun fact, I used to hate gimbals because I had a really bad experience. And it's actually been fun to use this gimbal to actually create stuff rather than to fight it. Unlock it. Unlock. So we're all unlocked everywhere. We're all balanced. I'm gonna turn this on. Just open up the app. The app is really nice because it gives you all the stats, like it'll tell you the battery life and all the different things going on with that. So that's really nice. So I've got the gimbal set up back here in this little alcove that you can see. And I've got my light set up here to give me a little bit of backlight. And I've got this right here giving me a little bit of fill. But the sweet thing about this gimbal is I have it set up back here. But because I've got the remote, I can actually position the camera to get the exact framing that I want. So this is kind of one of those things that if I was doing this without a gimbal like this and a remote, it just takes a lot more going back and forth and trying to get the framing exactly right. So this is a really sweet addition with this gimbal. All right, that looks good. Everything looks good here on my end, so let's roll this. Just kidding. I said everything was good, but I want to see what this, I've got this light right here. Let's see if I can get some different effects. I don't know if I want lightning, cinema. I don't know what that means.
Breaking news tonight, city officials call for a mandatory evacuation of any residents left within city limits. Scientists are calling these creatures highly unpredictable, volatile.
So now I'm setting up to do a shot, and I'm going to take advantage of this gimbal's tracking module that it has in it. So it's able to lock onto a frame, basically detect the subject in it, and then move the gimbal to keep the same framing with it, like as long as you are in the tracking mode. So I'm going to try that out now. It tracks me pretty well. Like, it moves with me. If you go down, it goes down. If it goes up, it tracks pretty well. One thing here though is I'm trying not to show the TV because I'm trying to do all of that practically, because right now the TV is actually off. I don't have a broadcast. A lot of it's going to be done with the sound in post. So this framing that I've got here might not exactly work, so I might need to flip the angle of where I actually have the camera. So I'm going to try that right now. All right, I am redoing this same move again. Using the tracking on the gimbal to follow me. The last shot I did, it looked good, but you could see the light fixture a lot more than I want to. Yeah, so I adjusted the angle, and I think I'll be able to get something with this. So here we go. So I'm back to this angle. I want to get a couple more tight shots of me, of the eyes, really letting this moment sink in where our character, he's watching this broadcast and he just sees that everything is really going downhill and he has to get out. He's been trying to hold up in his house here, you know, maybe everything has been abandoned, but this is really the moment where he's like, I gotta go.
Highly unpredictable, volatile, and fatal if come into contact with. If you are within the sound of this broadcast, make for the nearest extraction point as soon as possible.
I don't even know what time it is right now. Oh, it's midnight. Okay. I think a big thing when you're making short films like this, especially if you're doing this solo or like you're your own crew, is just to not overload yourself. I've been filming for about an hour, a little bit over an hour, maybe like an hour and a half with like some of the prep and the setup. You know, getting the cameras ready, batteries, SD cards, getting all the gear out. In the past, when I've done these sorts of things, I've definitely burned myself out because I tried to just film everything in one stretch. And it doesn't work well. But projects like these, even though they feel small, are better handled breaking them up into a couple different days. So even if you're trying to be very economical in your shooting, it just happens where you're like, oh, I want to do another take, or maybe I'll try this again, or do another one for safety. It's just the way it goes. And especially when you are acting in the film, there's just a lot more pies you're juggling. Why pies? I don't know pies. No, not pies. You know what I meant. There's a lot more balls that you're juggling, or hats, I don't know. You're juggling something, but there's just a lot more of them. And so you gotta treat yourself well, you know? Don't beat yourself up. Take it easy on yourself, and we're gonna wrap up day 2. No, what day? I need to go to sleep. But we're gonna wrap up day 1 right now after this next shot. Our character is gonna run out that door. He's making a mad dash to try to get out of the house, get to his vehicle. And I've got a small RGB light out there just pumping a little bit of something, so we're just not in complete darkness. But I'm gonna turn on the flashlight on my phone. That's gonna kind of be our motivation, give us a little bit more light in the scene. I've got the gimbal set up there again, using the tracking module so I can get this cool action shot of me coming out of the room, kind of being panicked, fumbling for my phone, and then running out the sliding glass door. So here we go. All right, so night 2 of this short film shoot, and tonight I'm gonna be doing all the exterior stuff. So there's a car scene. I might get to some of the like chase sequence. For this one, my philosophy is I don't wanna use a ton of big light fixtures if I don't have to. I'm trying to naturally hide lights in places where they could be. And so in our last shot, the main character ran out the house. And so I have a tube light I've hidden up here. which could work, you know, function really well as just kind of like a, you know, an outdoor sensor light that somebody might have outside their house. So I've got that right there, and that just gives me enough kick, and it's bouncing off the garages to bring up some of the shadow right there, so I'm not in complete darkness. I've got the gimbal set up right here. As you can see, it's gonna be doing a little tracking for me. It was doing a great job of that last night, so I'm gonna keep rolling with it. So get this transition shot, and then we will move to the car. I am now in the car, and I'm getting a nice shot of the key going into the ignition. I've got the remote right here, and I can use that to trigger recording. I can set the frame how I want it, but we're gonna roll on this. So I'm gonna go start the car. Do it. Oh, close the door. I got our gimbal set up for our last shot here. I've got it ground level because I want to get some cool angles with this and stuff, but I'm gonna essentially be like rolling out of the car because he gets freaked out and he's like, what's coming for me? And so it's kind of like a tuck and roll situation. So see if we can get this shot. Oh boy. So today is the final night of filming for this short film. I still don't have a title for it, so maybe I will come up with one, but I'm gonna do the last part of the sequence tonight, which I think is gonna involve a little POV. I want some running shots, like I'm running panicked. And then there will be kind of like the final climax scene, like, oh, did he get away? Did he make it out? And then, you know, you'll just have to see what happens. Spoiler, he does not get away. All right, it's been kind of fun on this shoot. I've been rocking this 22mm on this camera the whole time, which is, you know, APS-C. It's roughly like a 35, but yeah, it's been doing good. Been doing a good job. All right, at this point, I feel like I'm practically a pro at balancing gimbals. I feel so good about myself. Look at that. Booyah. That's all there is, baby. That's all there is. All right. So here's the setup I've got. You've got the gimbal right over there. You can see the little red light. I've got a couple lights down here on the ground. It's just bouncing off of this outcropping, like the awning right here. It's just giving me enough light to expose the scene because I'm gonna run into this fenced area right here. All right, that's a wrap on this unnamed short film. Yeah, I don't want to jinx it. I'll start looking through the footage and we'll see if it's really a wrap. The Scorp Mini 3 Pro, it was coming in clutch. I filmed this whole thing using this and a tripod, and it was great. Yeah, this gimbal has been really fun to use. Feiyu Tech, thanks again for sending this out to me, taking a big swing creatively, letting me do this. So all in all, I think this film turned out really well. There's a lot of stuff that I was really happy with how it turned out. Some of the lighting choices, some of the cinematography, you know, and the MVP of all of this has to be the Scorp Mini 3 Pro. Not because they sent this out to me, or like I said, this isn't a sponsored video, but the gimbal really did help me do a lot of things that I wouldn't have been able to do. Having the detachable remote was huge. Being able to like frame up my shots with it, You can trigger the gimbal from it. You can do the recording with the detachable handle. That is huge. That is incredible. I have to give a big shout out too to the tracking module. Having that allowed me to get more motion in my shots than I couldn't before, because you know, I've done some of these type of tripod films where I do stuff and I do a lot of the motion, you know, in post, and I still did some of that in this film. But a lot of the motion I was able to do in camera because of the tracking module. So that is a huge win. I will say I noticed that the tracking module performs obviously a lot better when it can see you. I shot a lot of this stuff at night, and there was a lot of times where it would have me and then it would lose me basically once I went out of the light, or I don't know if there's enough contrast or definition for the tracking. But any other time that I tested the tracking module, like during the day or when I had sufficient light, it always did really well. It followed me, it didn't lose me. It was only at night, I think, when I would fall into shadow or darkness that sometimes it would struggle. I used the FPV mode, which was really great. Like there's a sequence when I'm running and I'm trying to get to this fenced in place, and just basically having the gimbal just follow every way that I moved it to simulate, you know, what someone's POV looks like. I thought I did a great job with that. And lastly, I didn't talk about a ton of it in like the BTS stuff, but using the app was super helpful. It just can get you dialed in. It's got a nice little touch screen on the gimbal handle, but you can do everything from there too, like calibrate it. Some other notes about this gimbal: it is a smaller gimbal, so it has a smaller payload. I forget the exact amount. I can drop it on the screen someplace. But you know, for most like smaller to standard size mirrorless cameras, it can handle it pretty well. You know, I use the M50. I have a GH5. It handles that fine. You know, I have a Sigma 18-35. It's a fairly dense lens. It can handle that. This isn't a gimbal that's going to be holding like, you know, a C70 or like any of the bigger, you know, A7 V. And I think if you're a small like indie filmmaker like me, where you're doing a lot of like small narrative projects, this is a great tool, because if you're behind the gimbal and you're using it, you know, you can get some nice stable shots. It's really easy to set up, balance, do all that stuff. But if you're doing a lot of like one-man band type of stuff, or you're the small crew and you have to do some acting talent-wise in front of the camera, this really makes things a lot easier. And I think for the price point that this gimbal comes in at, and like the features that it's offering, I feel like it is very comparable in some ways to what DJI is having with their mini gimbals. And especially if it's like you're trying to get into gimbals for the first time, or, you know, reintroduce yourself to gimbals, I think this is great. If you want a small travel gimbal, you know, this gimbal is super small. It packs up very nicely. It's really compact. I definitely will travel with this in the future because it's not that much to pack it up. And, you know, I like to take small cameras, and this is going to be great. I hope you enjoyed the short film. It was fun for me to make. You know, the longer I do the filmmaking journey, I really believe, like, as filmmakers, it's so important that we challenge ourselves, that we keep getting reps and going through the full filmmaking process. That's why I think it's really important and critical to make these small little microfilms, these small short films, because you get to keep going through the whole creative process, like coming up with the idea, figuring out the resources, figuring out the shoot day, getting on set, doing the technical shooting, doing the post-production, figuring out how you want to roll the film out. The more reps you get of this whole process, I think it makes you a stronger filmmaker. It helps you understand different parts of the filmmaking process, and ultimately that's what's going to keep leveling you up, so that one day, you know, hopefully you can tackle that feature, you know, or you can tackle that really high budget short film that you want to do, or whatever the goal, the project is for you. Yeah, much love. Hope you enjoyed this video. And until next time, keep making movies and watching movies, and I'll see you on Reel Filmmaking.